Alright, welcome back to part 3, the final installment of our reaction to KANTARA. Thank you so much for coming back. Before we get into it, gotta say a couple things. Make sure to hit the subscribe button, bell icon, all notifications, and pretty please vote this up. Let YouTube know you're enjoying what you're watching. If you want to watch the whole movie with us, no cuts, no interruptions, so you can get the full experience, head over to our Patreon page, patreon.com/JabyKOAY, or become a member of this YouTube channel. You get access to our reaction, but you will need your own copy of the film, so you can open it up in an adjacent window to our reaction, and we'll give you a 3, 2, 1 countdown sync. It'll be like you're watching it with 2 of your favorite pals from the internet. Alright, let's jump back into this. Here we go.
Don't be scared. Pumbaa's your friend. Maybe. I don't know. Actually, he looks a little bit scary. Oh, he's got right. Go after it. Yes. Oh.
ಈಗ ಎಲ್ರಿಗೂ ಗೊತ್ತಾಯ್ತಾ ಆ ದನಿ ಎಂತ ಜನ
ಗುರುವ ಸತ್ತ ದಿವಸ ಮನೆಗೆ ಬಂದು ಕಣ್ಣೀರು ಹಾಕಿದಾಗಲೇ
ನಮ್ಮ ಜಾಗ ಹೋಗುದು ಹೋಯ್ತಲ್ಲ ಈಗಲೂ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಜಾಗ ನೀವು ಉಳಿಸ್ಕೊ.
Oh, so now they're working together.
ಎಲ್ಲ ಒಟ್ಟಾಗೋ ತರ ಕಾಣ್ತಾ ಉಂಟು.
ಇನ್ನ ನಮಗೆ ಉಳಿಗಾಲ ಇಲ್ವಾ ಅಂತ.
Yeah. Cuz he screwed up.
ಆ ಹಲ್ಕಟ್ ದನಿ ಇಡೀ ಊರನ್ನ ಅವನ ಹೆಸರಿಗೆ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡಿದಾನ.
ಜಾಗ ಮಾತ್ರ ಅಲ್ಲಮ್ಮ, ನಮ್ಮ ಗುರು ಅನ್ಸ
ಕೈ ಕಟ್ಟಿದ್ದವನ್ನೆಲ್ಲ ಕಟ್ಟಿಕೊಡ, ಆ ಪುಲಿಯಾಡಿ ಮನೆ ನಾನು ಹೋಗಿಕೊಡ.
Oh shit, war's about to go down.
Oh, they're coming here. No, where? They're going to the place.
ಕಾಡಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ಕಲ್ಲಿದೆ, ಕಿವಿ ಕೊಟ್ಟು ಕೇಳು. ನಾನು ಕೇಳಿದೆ, ಕಾಡು ಮಾತಾಡ್ತು.
ಇಬ್ಬರ ನಂಬಿಕೆಗಳು ಬೇರೆ ಇರ್ಬೋದು ಶಿವ, ಅದರ ಅಸ್ತಿತ್ವ ಒಂದೇ.
ನನಗೆಂತಾರು ಆದರೆ ನಮ್ಮೊರೊಟ್ಟಿಗೆ ನೀವು ಇರ್ತಿರಲ್ಲ ಸರ್.
Oh.
Okay.
This happened before. Okay, girl. Whoa. Oh, he's just sitting there? Dang. Oh. Oh yeah, I was wondering if there were any guns in this fight.
What is he hiding behind? That's not...
Do we trust it? Okay. Not bad.
He's like, once is enough.
He's like, okay, okay, okay.
Oh, nice.
Oh my god. That was great. Oh, behind you, sir. Oh, no. Ouch.
Damn. One of his buddies.
Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. What? Oh. Come on now. He made a choice. Oh shit. Dude. Uh-oh. Oh shoot, this guy. Oh. Dang! The power of the demigod. Let's go.
ಏನಾಯ್ತು ಮಗ?
ನಿಮ್ಮ ಕುಟುಂಬದವರೆಲ್ಲ ಬಂದ್ರ ಹಾಗಾದ್ರೆ ಉಳಿದದಿಷ್ಟೇ ಜನವ ಅಂತ ಗಂಡ ಸತ್ತ ಮುಂಡೆರೆಲ್ಲ ಯೋಚನೆ ಮಾಡೋದು ಬೇಕಿಲ್ಲ. ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ನಾನಿದ್ದೀನಲ್ಲ. ಕಮಲ.
Ew.
I hit the stone.
Oh! Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh my god, goosebumps. Whoa. Oh. Oh, he's coming for ya.
Whoa.
ಈ ಮಂಜಿ ಕರ್ಮ ಬರಕು ಇನ್ನೇ ತೆರ ಪಲ್ಪಲರು ಬಿಡು ಈ ಮಂಜಿಗೆ ಕೊಡ್ತು ದರ್ಬಾರ್ ವರಿಪಾವೆ
Oh. Oh, she got a bubba?
Yep.
Oh, you better not disappear. What? Yeah. What? He just disappeared?
Well, I think he's still a protector.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I know they're doing a part 2, so, like, there's got to be something there. But I'm just kind of, like, gutted, because he just had a baby. I mean, he's never going to know his baby. That makes me sad.
Yeah, well.
He just disappeared, but I guess he was doing it for the village.
Right.
This movie really surprised me because I don't think it was exactly what I thought it was gonna be, but then it kind of was, if that makes any sense at all. Because I think in the beginning when we had the setup for the story where we find out that it's this promise that this king made to the villagers and all of that, I really enjoyed that kind of mythical aspect of it and the superstition and the storytelling that way. And I thought there would be more of that throughout the movie, but then they started weaving this other story that was more set in the present day and talking about like classism, but also, you know, like who owns the land really, and the government trying to conserve the forest, but also it's kind of encroaching on their way of life, which has been going on for generations and centuries and all of that. Plus, then you've got this other thing with the family who were descended from the royal family, right? Who owned the land originally, but then gave it to the villagers as part of this promise, and kind of seeing how that all weaved together. And then we kind of departed from the supernatural element for a little bit, although it was kind of coming back in, dropping back in every now and then just to remind us that it's still there. But then it culminated in this climax, which I really, really enjoyed, because I find all that stuff so fascinating. And I really enjoyed Rishab Shetty's performance, especially when he was overtaken with the spirit of the demigod, because it was just so enthralling. And I've seen some of these types of performances, I think one time in person, a similar type of thing, but also just like in other videos and documentaries and stuff that I've watched, and it's always just fascinating to see, because there's something that comes out that's like so feral and so fierce, you know, and it's really different than a lot of stuff that I've seen. And I just really enjoyed his embodiment of that, and then the movement and like the whole look of that I thought was just so fascinating.
I think that conceptually it's a very neat idea that you have this village that is protected by this demigod that is actively present in there and is willing to negotiate on your behalf to protect you.
Yeah.
And if you don't adhere to agreement, the demigod will come back with a vengeance. I think that idea is pretty cool. Speaking of ideas, obviously I'm an action guy, and I'm paying close attention to the action that's going on in the film, like studying it almost. And so if you were to take all the action collectively, I would say that 20% of it was very well executed, right? 25% of it.
Sure.
And then I'd say 50% of it was really cool ideas that were all right in the execution. And then the other 25%, I was just not happy with the execution. And if that gives you sort of the scope of like my feelings while watching the action, because there were some moments where I was like, that is super cool, and I wish they did more of that. Like there was this one really neat shot where they were at the sword maker's house, and Rishab Shetty kicks this bad guy through the wall, and the camera follows through, almost like an anime or something, or like The Matrix, or, you know, like that type of movie. And I thought that idea was cool. And in that same fight scene, he had this moment where he's on this beam, he like flips over it and kicks the guy, or like stabilizes himself. I'm like, oh, that's cool. I haven't seen that before. And it's like only in this sort of setting with that specific structure could you have a movement like that. Like you couldn't do that in our modern structure.
Well, yeah, like I really enjoyed that fight scene in particular, because I liked that it was using the environment in a really interesting way.
You just mentioned a moment ago the final action sequence, and I was like watching that made me wonder why there were certain things that were not more present throughout the movie, because there was a lot of good stuff in that final, like it's almost like they saved their budget for that final fight scene.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because there was a lot of chaos and explosions and practical effects happening all at once, and really neat stunts that isn't just like on the part of stunt guys, but like actors who were there in the thick of it. You know, like you saw the main cop and there's like explosions going on right beside him. Like that's crazy. You know, if you think about that as an actor, I mean, you go to like the Universal Studios stunt show and you can feel the fire from an explosion that is more than 50 feet away from you. You have actors who were on set right by all this frenzy. I think that's pretty cool, and I thought they had good use of sound effects in that same sequence, because when it was on Rishab Shetty, it was just like realizing, oh, I'm not in the fight. I'm just standing here.
Yeah.
The camera's like on him, moving around, and there's like all this commotion going on of like violence and fighting and whatnot. And I was like, oh, that's a really cool moment of just using sound effects, because you're filling in the blank in your mind of what's going on.
Right.
They did enough of showing you the action so that you could fill it in. And a lot of the action in that sequence was actually quite interesting, just the choreography of it all. And then when he finally became a demigod and was fighting, I'm like, oh, cool. It's like, you know, almost like a very Joseph Campbell kind of thing of him, you know, his hero's journey sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely followed that arc, right? Yeah. Although sometimes I did find him infuriating just as a character, even though I knew that at the end he was going to redeem himself. But it was some stuff in the middle where I was like, oh my God, he is such a wastrel. He just drinks and he's always drunk and he's high and he's not really doing much except when the village needs him. Like, he's the guy that you call when you need someone to get beaten up. It was very satisfying at the end to see him really come into his own, because I knew that the whole point of the journey was going to be that he had to step up into the role that was always meant to be his. Like, it was not meant for his cousin to be the, like, avatar for the demigod or whatever. You know, it was always supposed to go to him, but he rejected it ever since his father disappeared.
Yeah.
So, well, I mean, I don't blame him for that. You know, that's understandable. Your father mysteriously disappears. It makes sense that maybe you're like, you know, I don't think I'd want to go into this family business. It was satisfying to kind of see him really step into that role and, like, take it all the way, you know?
I do kind of wish that the movie favored more of the mythical storytelling approach.
Yeah.
Because it had that as its foundation, and it was almost like a parable in a way. And, you know, well, parable for me, you know, I associate that word with the Bible. And
Well,
so
yeah.
it has that sort of, what's another word for parable that is less...
Like a fable.
Okay, thank you. It's like a fable in a way where it's this story with lessons embedded in it.
Yeah.
And early on, the guy who runs the sword shop said something very interesting. He said that, you know, the bulls are the ones that won the race,
Yes.
but the guy who's running the bulls is the one that gets the prize.
Yeah, that was a very interesting thing that he said.
And I feel like you can take that and apply it to so many different things.
Yeah.
Whether it's business, whether it's villagers, whether it's like people working for a Microsoft corporation, like whatever it is,
Yeah.
like you can apply that to so many things. And, you know, Steve Jobs stands on the stage getting the, you know, applause for making the iPhone, but it's his engineers that made the iPhone.
Exactly.
He was the one cracking the whip.
Yeah.
And so it's just a fascinating idea. You know, even with movies, it's the same thing. The director gets the credit, but it's like there's a whole team of people that help produce that image.
Yeah.
Each of the images that you're seeing, like that's a whole crew of people. Anyway, that's, you know, one little moment that I thought was cool, that was stand out. But the movie needed to serve a larger audience, and so you had this thing that was rooted in the romantic angle between him and the lady that became the cop. My issue with like the romance in some of these films is oftentimes they are really inconsequential to the whole thing. Like, they don't really matter.
Sure. Yeah.
It's like it's just there either as filler or to serve that section of the audience, and then it goes away and it never really comes back. And so that to me is a flaw in the film, because while I liked her character and I thought she was interesting and her conflict was interesting,
Yes.
Nothing really ever came about from that. Like, she threw the spear and I'm like, cool. Then nothing. Like, what happened? She just like disappears into the frenzy, and nothing really happens with her except she's pregnant. I'm like, okay, so now she's got a fatherless kid just like he was.
Yeah.
You know, and the history kind of repeats itself. Like, what's going to happen with that kid? Is that what the sequel's about?
Maybe,
like,
yeah.
You know, is the kid going to be in denial? Because, you know, taking something I mentioned a moment ago, like the Matrix, Neo did not believe in fate, and he had to succumb to his fate, right?
Right.
And so it would have been kind of cool to see something like that here, where it's like he doesn't buy any of that nonsense.
It kind of was, because he was actively trying to run away from all of that when really he had to run towards it, right?
It was kind of there, but it wasn't really.
But yeah, you're right in a sense that like Neo accepted his fate and like actively stepped into the role, whereas he kind of got his head bashed into the role.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Yeah, I recognize that as I, you know, speak my opinions and whatnot, that I am not the target audience at all, right? Because I have some feelings that I want to share right now, but I need to like remind myself and you guys that I am not the target audience. I'm coming into this as a foreigner, as an American, just trying my best to have an open mind about things. If one of you were to ask me, would you watch this again? My answer would quickly be no. Like, and this, it's not because I didn't like it. It's just because like there was nothing about this particular film that made me go, this is legendary. I need to watch this again and study it, or anything like that. Except for maybe like a couple of the action moments, or I'm like, that's neat, that's interesting. I'd like to like revisit that like few seconds action and whatnot.
Yeah.
And how they did that. But like in terms of like the filmmaking and whatever, it's like they did a good job of telling the story. There's something I noticed that comes up a lot with South Indian films, where for whatever reason, sometimes in fast-paced dialogue, if the actors are not in the same frame, they're cutting back and forth really fast. And as a foreigner who's having to read subtitles and keep up with the framing, that can be very jarring. But I feel like that is also unnecessary. Like, even if it's in English, that's a bit superfluous in terms of the cutting sometimes. And I don't know what that's about, if it's an attempt to keep the audience engaged, or that's just a stylistic choice. But I do see that happen sometimes, and I'm just like, I don't understand why it's cutting so quickly right now. And other times it's really taking its time. And I enjoyed those long shots a bit more. Because as soon as I said, oh, they're cutting really fast, it was followed by like two or three long shots. And I'm like, well, now I can enjoy this moment. But like, there were some creative camera angles that I did enjoy. The fight scene that you said was your favorite in that little hut.
Yeah.
You know, they did a little Hitchcock shot where when he's high or whatever it is that he's smoking and he's seeing the guys come through the rain, the camera like pushes in on him and it's like this weird background effect. You know what I'm talking about? Where the camera's zoomed in and then it pushes in while zooming out, so it has this weird warpy effect, and I thought that was really neat. And it would have been neat to see more of that kind of stuff. Like, the romance was cool in terms of giving us the cop lady, but like, it just would have been neat if they took it further. And it felt like it was sort of stuck at the ground level quite a bit. Like, even with the demigod, it would have been neat to see some magical things happen more.
It was interesting to me, like, I really like the concept of this, and I think ultimately I would have liked them to explore more of the mystical aspect of it, because I found that so intriguing. I really enjoyed just kind of seeing the village life and their beliefs and their culture and everything like that. And so I did just want to see more of the magic of that, because for me, as someone was brought up in Thailand and kind of grew up around superstition and stuff, immediately as soon as the guy made a bargain with the demigod, I'm all like, oh, don't mess, you know what I mean? Like, you don't go back on that promise, because like that's so ingrained in my culture, that kind of stuff, you know, like you just don't mess with the supernatural. I did kind of want to see that more, but I understand that perhaps they wanted to maybe ground it in reality a little bit more. And even with some of the fight scenes, I noticed like sometimes it felt like they were kind of going for a more visceral feel, but then every now and then they would kind of take it into like anime superhero territory. So it was like kind of a mishmash.
I didn't mind that so much.
Of both.
What I minded more in the fight scenes was the egg on the face. Like,
there was some of that, yeah.
You know, where like Rishab Shetty had a moment in the crazy frenzy fight towards the end where he like put his sword up to block, and two guys went to strike the sword. And I'm like, it's so telegraphed. you know, he's like waiting there with the sword. Like, you could, I would have loved it if they did another take where it like connected at the same time. You know, it has to be, it's a little more dangerous, but it gives you a more suspenseful feeling, you know?
Yeah, it gives you a sense of the danger.
I guess going back to what we talked about earlier, because you said he sort of had his head smashed into this position. Yeah. Right? It would have been cool if there was a moment like, maybe 60% of the way through the movie, that was like the Moses in the burning bush moment.
Right, where he's like, what do you want from me?
Yeah, and he's like struck with just this epiphany, or like the allegory of the cave, where he's taken out of his reality for a moment, and you know, and maybe they have to spend a little bit more money, but take him into this like very godly place, where he's exposed to supernatural elements that he has never seen, and he's forced to recognize things in such a way that it's almost like or mushrooms, you know, like some people talk about being on mushrooms for the first time, and it's like this eye-opening moment, that third eye opening up, and there's no turning that off. And it's like, now you see this forever. And I never felt that moment from him until the very, very end, when that final fight was transpiring. And I wanted to see that landlord get his head chopped off. I hated him so much. But like, you were talking about how like he's such a good actor. I'm like, I felt like we could see that the entire movie, that he was like conniving and tricking everybody.
Oh, really? Because he totally got me. When I said in the moment that he's such a good actor, I mean, yes, he's a good actor, the individual acting, but I also meant that the character was a good actor, because he had everybody fooled. And honestly, like, usually I'm pretty good at picking up on this stuff as I'm watching, but I guess I kind of switch that part off, because after the initial question that I had when they first introduced him as that guy's son, I did have the thought in my head where I was like, oh, that's weird. Why would he be known as having a heart of gold and being so nice to the villagers and stuff, but then you don't ever see him for the longest time do anything untoward towards them
he just
until
had a weird
later on.
Slimy vibe to him.
You were like, I just don't like this guy from the beginning.
I felt like something was off with him the entire time,
I was completely blindsided, and I enjoyed that, because I like it when a movie can surprise me like that, and I was just like, oh no, it's him.
Earlier you said that you enjoyed the portrayal of the demigod. I wasn't as big of a fan of it. Like, the shaking
Yeah,
and,
I liked it.
the whoa, like
Yeah.
it's that over and over again. I just got a little tired of it by the end of the movie. And I recognize I'm not the target audience. Maybe that's intrinsically tied into either the folklore of that region of India or the what do you call it, traditional dances and stuff like that, like you were talking about. Maybe it's tied into that in a very intrinsic way, and I'm just not exposed to it, so it's not as meaningful to me. But for me as an outsider looking in, I'm just like I got a little tired of it, in the first 20 minutes. I'm like, okay, stop doing that. Just stop doing that. And maybe I would have been more into it if it went beyond the scope of what it was doing, because it still felt like humans. Like, I was half waiting for a moment where we're not sure if this demigod's a demigod. We're not sure if this is just a person who's fooling everybody.
But that's the whole thing, isn't it? Because the guy in the beginning didn't buy it, and
No, he did.
his son didn't buy it.
No, his son didn't, but the very first person did.
No, he didn't.
He made the agreement.
No. I'm talking about the guy who died vomiting blood on the stairs.
No, he didn't buy it. No, he didn't buy it.
No, he didn't buy it at all.
No, but the very beginning, the first guy in the 1800s, he bought it when he
Yeah.
made the agreement.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so we're on the same page now.
Yeah. No,
What?
I was talking about the guy on the stairs because he didn't buy it at all, and he even he had that same question that you had. He's like, how do I know that this is the demigod speaking and not the performer?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I thought that angle was actually interesting because, you think about, again, I'm going to relate this to my upbringing, but like you think about like Jesus, right? And this happened 2,000 years ago. And, Jesus had all these miracles, and then he helped someone who was paralyzed, able to walk again or something like that.
Yeah.
And he rose from the dead, and he had holes in his hands, and then like vanished into the heavens 3 days after he died, supposedly, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Lazarus, he brought Lazarus back from the
to
dead.
life, yeah.
Right. So there's all these miracles that Jesus did, and 2,000 years later, you're like, where's Jesus? And where are these miracles now? It's like, so your assumption automatically is that people back then were making up these fables to share, and we just buy into it because it's really old now. There's that aspect, that
Yeah.
conversation, and I thought that maybe they were gonna sort of attack that angle of like something magical happened 100 years ago, but we haven't seen it in a while, so why should we believe it? Maybe our ancestors were just making it up, and then come to find out they weren't. And
Right.
you have that big fish moment of like, oh no, all this shit was real. I kind of wish they explored that conversation, but it was sort of serving the masala needs by having this love story thing that took over the movie for like a good 30-40 minutes.
Oh.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
But like, I just feel like the movie could have explored a lot more than it did. And so for all the hype and build-up of, oh, you gotta watch KANTARA, and I'm like, okay. But I felt like I was largely, for the most part, getting a lot of what I get already. Outside of a few special moments, like the action sequences and the concepts.
In terms of like how it was shot and everything, it felt different as well because you get a lot of it kind of shot at night in the dark. They're not afraid of that,
I feel like I've seen that in South Indian films. But,
Okay.
Yeah,
I
mean,
was just trying to offer something.
No, you're right. I mean, you're right. It's definitely. I suppose more of it was shot in the dark than I'm used to. But no, we watched the one about the guy who's trying to get back to his little girl. His truck driver, Kaithi.
Yeah, that was
all in the dark.
That was all at night. Yeah, but yeah, this one also felt like it was really trying to be quite rustic with it all. Just kind of really feeling like it was, in a village and everything. It didn't feel too clean or anything like that. Like,
Sure.
to me, they just kind of felt like they could have been villagers.
Yeah.
But then what do I know? I'm just some lady who lives in a city.
The guy who choked Rishab Shetty.
Yeah.
And made him pass out. I wish they set that guy up earlier.
As having that kind of strength.
Well, what is something? Like,
Yeah.
he just shows up in
and
the
is
last,
like
30 minutes of the movie. I'm like,
Yeah.
wait, who is this dude? Like,
Yeah.
he's such a powerful guy, and we never really saw him use his power. I thought that was kind of a missed opportunity for it being 2.5 hours, almost, whatever. It seems like you should have set that guy up as someone dangerous and someone that we want to see go down.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where he does some damage to some people, and I don't know, it seemed like a missed opportunity. But anyway, we got what we got. He was an interesting bad guy, and I just thought like that would have been cool. I thought more could have been done with him as well. Because they said he's got this cool look. He's really tall and he's very strong. He's like a superhero or supervillain.
Yeah.
And I just wish that more was done with him. But anyway,
Yeah.
he's dead.
He's dead. He died.
So, but yeah, like I said earlier, there was a lot of interesting ideas here that I enjoyed.
Yeah.
Just like exploring intellectually. and it left me wanting more from the movie because I'm like, oh, it would have been cool if they did this, and I'm trying my best to just sort of accept what I'm getting and enjoy it for what it is.
Yeah.
I never really understood why Our Lady was just cool with him pinching her stomach like that. I would have punched him in the face. I'm like, you don't do that.
Yeah, no.
You know?
If any guy tries to pinch my stomach, I'll be like, excuse you.
Yeah, like I was, maybe it's the American in me, but I was
probably.
I was kind of waiting for this moment where she's like, hey, respect. Like,
Don't touch me.
I was kind of waiting for him to learn his lesson, and it's like,
No, it turned into a cute thing where it was like, that was his way of showing affection to her. But like, it looked like it hurt.
Okay, look, there was this girl who I had a experience with a long time ago. It didn't go very far, but anyway, the short of it is, I used to like smack her butt, and she's like, hey, and I thought she was gonna yell at me or something, and she's like, you rub it. Don't smack it, that hurts. Rub it. I was like, okay. And then that's a cute thing, right? And so it could have been cool if she's like, look, that's fine, just don't do it as hard. And like, something like that.
It's like, ouch.
That would have been kind of real. And, you know, one thing I did enjoy that was sort of fleeting was there were, now obviously we're limited by the subtitles, right? And the translation therein. But there were some interesting moments that felt like real responses. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was like where someone would trip up their dialogue and then he'd correct himself. I forgot who did it.
Oh, it was the funny guy who kept running after all the ladies and having all the.
It must have been him, but
he was like, I'm gonna go repair my bum, and then he's like, oh no, I'm gonna go repair my gun.
I think it was that
like,
guy.
It was a play on words.
But there was a moment where someone was asking him a name and he said the wrong name and then he fixed it, and I thought that was actually like really.
Oh, the crotch and the scotch.
No, it was a name. It was like an actual name, not a word. But I just enjoyed that kind of stuff, like where it just felt like a real exchange where people make mistakes. It's a very American Graffiti kind of thing. American Graffiti is an old movie. It's a very American Graffiti kind of thing where someone like says something by accident and then they correct themselves because that's how people talk.
Right.
And
yeah.
No one speaks in perfect dialogue. Everyone has like this trip up that they sort of do in an effort to communicate their idea, and I just thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah, and I really enjoyed like all of the supporting characters as well. I thought there was good banter between him and his friends and stuff, and that was enjoyable. Yeah.
But anyway, overall, interesting experience, and hopefully you guys enjoyed our reaction. I mean, I'm sure ACHARA gave a better reaction than I did. I was just sort of like studying the movie the whole time.
I feel like this movie, as we were watching it, I'm like, oh god, I hope this wasn't like a really boring reaction, because like there's so much kind of going on that is interesting, and I'm like trying to keep up with the story because it's moving, and like there's all these different pieces of things happening, so it's like I don't want to miss anything. So I definitely was like really focused in it. I think we both were.
Okay.
Except for, you know, every now and then something big happens, like Dad popping up out of nowhere. That was a good jump scare.
Sure.
But yeah,
it
was interesting. I enjoyed it.
Also,
yeah,
I am telling you, I have video evidence of a Thai officer going like this as she was checking someone's bag. She did not do this.
No, I'll tell you, I will explain to you why. You think you know everything, okay?
I don't think I know everything. I'm just telling you what I saw.
No, okay. So it's like this.
She went like this, though.
2 hands. The only reason she went like that was because she was doing things with her other hand. If you went up to like an elder in Thailand and you were like, Sawadee Krap, they'd be like,
I get a pass.
How disrespectful.
I get a pass because I'm American.
How disrespectful.
Americans are just disrespectful by nature.
Two hands.
They just go, oh, he's American. It's
well,
fine.
yeah, that's true. They'd be just like, they would be like, oh, what a disrespectful American. It's fine, whatever.
You guys can watch that in the After India vlog that's on my channel. You can see what I'm talking about. I just got excited for a second because I thought I recognized something, and immediately, of course, ACHARA shoots it down. Whatever I recognize, ACHARA's like, no, you're wrong. Because they did exactly what that officer did.
You kept trying to like fight me on it. I'm like, no, like I don't have time to explain this to you while we're watching
the only reason I was
movie.
harping on it is because you said it never happens, and I'm like, I saw it with my own eyes. I got it on video, moreover. So there.
Okay, fine, Jaby.